You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk covering every team in the NHL. New episodes every Monday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from. Hey, that's me.
I was walking through the halls of a Minnesota rink when along came a Wild fan who started talking smack to me. He said, I bet you never liked the Blues until they won a cup. And so I calmly turned to him and said, hey man, listen up. I admit it's pretty great to win Lord Stanley's prize, but listen, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues. I know Brett Hull, Court, Noel Campbell, Cujo, Jenny Oates, Brown, Chase, Fuhr, Zombo, Cecil, Butcher, Shanny, Tilly, Tuttle, Sutter, Twister, Turcotte, Kimball, Turgeon, Barron, Basson, Pronger, Pearson, Bergevin, Bozon, Al McInnes, Crab, Chuck, Howard, Chuck, Petrovic, Pellerin, Dimitra, Yate, Corson, Conrad, Gretzky. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup near 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues.
Hello and welcome to Blue Notes, located on the best city in the Mississippi, the best in the Midwest. We got that Stanley Cup power, too sweet to be sour. And if you're still clueless, we're talking about St. Louis. This is Blue Notes on the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for Blues coverage. I am one of your three hosts of the network, Tom Franklin, joined by the man called Wags, back from going under the knife. Wags, how you feeling, bud?
I'm doing much, much better, up and about. I'm actually able to sit in the chair now, and that was something that I would never thought I'd ever have to say, that I wasn't able to sit in the chair, but now I can, so I'm excited.
And, of course, joining us once again from currently braving the outer bands of a tropical storm right now, it is the man called Trainwreck. How you living out there in New Orleans, Trainwreck? Oh, I think I got you on mute still, so let's try that again. All right, Trainwreck, go ahead.
We're good, man. I mean, beautiful weather out here. Not a single ray of sunshine in sight. Little drizzle. There's some heavy wind kicking, but power's out too, and we're out here living. So, you know.
Yeah, in case you don't know. Yeah, in case you don't know, New Orleans power system can leave a little something to be desired, right, Trainwreck?
Pretty much. I mean, everything about this city seems to be non-functional. So.
Well, yeah, there you go. You hear it on Still Biscuits all the time.
Still the greatest city in the world, though. Still the greatest city in the world.
even with its warts. Now, I'm wearing, as you can see, if you're watching on the stream, I am wearing a Blue Notes gaiter, a neck gaiter. It is part of our new Selkie level COVID defense system that we have on our new merchandise provider. They're called Teespring. Link is in the description below. And I'm really excited about these. They're very comfortable. They're double layered. You know, you may have seen that study recently that said that neck gaiters don't quite work the way they should. Well, that was just done on a single layer gaiter. This is double layer, so it's very thick, very much quality. And I'm proud that we are now partnering with Teespring for our merchandise. And Wags, I got to get you hooked up eventually here.
Hey, yeah, I'll take what I can get. So like I said earlier, that blue pops. I'm a powder blue guy. I love the powder blue, and with the gold and everything, it pops and it looks amazing.
Yeah, we also have cloth masks as well, and I'm actually going to get one in the mail here shortly, and I think I'm going to give that away. I'll announce details on our Twitter page at Blue Notes Pod right above my finger, so the winner can see the quality for yourself. So. Looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I'll pull this down so you can actually hear me all the way. Had planned on a pretty quiet episode this week. The Blues lost assistant GM Bill Armstrong to the Arizona Coyotes. Big part of their scouting team, a big part of a lot of the maybe, I guess, less sexy parts of the organization. He's gone. And this isn't Doug Armstrong. This is Bill Armstrong, the other Armstrong. No relation, by the way. And let's touch on that right now real quick, Wags. So, I mean, the people who don't understand, how big of a loss is this for the Blues?
It's absolutely huge. I mean, he's been a part, really the guy that's been leading that scouting department for the last 5 to 6 years. He's the guy that's brought in guys like Robert Thomas, and he's really set up Blues draft this year. So that was the one good thing that came out of this, is that, they talked with Arizona and said, hey, look, he cannot be a part of the draft this year because everything he's done has been for us. So the Blues are smart in that aspect, but yeah, it's going to be a massive loss for him, for the Blues organization. That being said, we thought the same thing when Kekalainen left, and we're like, oh no, what's going to happen there? Because he had some pretty good drafts as well. I'm very confident that the Blues are going to be able to promote somebody from within and continue the success that they've had at the drafting and scouting levels. It's a big loss, but every so often when you're having success, that means your guys are having success, and other teams are going to want to take that. So good for Bill. I hope he does well over there in Arizona. That is until they come into our division when Seattle enters the league. But if you're good at your job, you're going to get a promotion. So congratulations.
Yeah, very similar to the Jarmo Kekalainen loss a few years ago when he went to Columbus. Jarmo also handled the scouting and found a lot of good European youngsters. And Bill Armstrong found a lot of North American youngsters like Sammy Blais and those guys. That was under his watch. So big loss there. By the way, I want to say hello to our friends at the Soda Pod. Trainwreck / Sterling Archer. How much is it going to cost to follow our boy Isha?
Like follow him on social media or what? I thought I do.
Yeah, how much? I guess not. He's calling you out. I think you need to get on that.
I will. I mean, if I wasn't doing this from my phone right now because I have no Wi-Fi, I'd be on it right now.
Yeah.
But hey, I appreciate the hell out of the Sterling Archer comparison. I mean, I'll take that as a win in my book any day of the week.
Well, you're on the show to classes join up. You know that, right? Yeah, a little bit of that New Orleans class. Also, he noted that I am taking the pop filter to the extreme by wearing this, so I can pop my peas and they won't, destroy your speakers. So, neck gaiters, also good for broadcasting, especially. So, thank you for that. And another thing that happened this week, Jim Montgomery, the former head coach of the Dallas Stars, as recently as the beginning of this very season, he has joined the team as an assistant. I think what we'll do is we have Michael Farley coming on. He is the host of the Clean Skate podcast, covering all things Dallas Stars. We'll talk to him about that a little bit while we have our little Stanley Cup showdown between him and Chase Crawshaw of the Bolts broadcast, representing the Tampa Bay Lightning on the Hockey Podcast Network. But we've danced around it long enough. We got to talk about Petro. And looks like Isha has some jokes today. Bye, bye, bye should be the theme today, like the NSYNC song. I'd play that, but I'm pretty sure that we get sued. So we're not going to do that, obviously. But thanks a lot for watching, Ish. Something else, it's something that I feel that has been a little inevitable because the silence with all of the, speculation about whether or not Petro is going to sign or not has been deafening this whole season. It's been kind of a weird situation, at least in my opinion. And it finally came to a head this past week when the two sides could not come to an agreement here. And we'll take a look at the Jeremy Rutherford tweet here. As you can see, the Blues' current offer is $7.7 million average annual value. But Pietrangelo has been asked to accept the AAV without knowing the structure of the deal, which, this is one of your superstars. This is a guy that has led your team. Trainwreck, will start off with you. Does this feel a little bit like disrespect?
Coming from the front office to the guy who's been, your captain, your leader, who the team rallies around, who helped us deliver a Stanley Cup last year, it's almost like, not necessarily a backhanded compliment, but it's almost like a smack in the face to Pietrangelo. I mean, I can see where the front office is coming from with the money disputes, strictly because, he's getting up there in age, I'd say he's still kind of in his prime, but on his tail end of his prime. And from Pietrangelo's side, I mean, loyal to the city, fans love him. He's many people's favorite player, but I just think that he can definitely go out to play the market and get overpaid. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So, I mean, what's loyalty anymore? I mean, if you want to stay with one team your whole career, you take the pay cut, especially if you're already, a millionaire. But, at the end of the day, he's got to do what's best for him, what's best for his family. But yeah, I kind of think the front office is, I think, trying to look in the direction more of the young guys on the team and trying to get the young talent in and kind of wouldn't necessarily say rebuilding phase, so to speak, but more on the lines of, try to get a different kind of core group in and maybe test new ideas. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, we're still going to be a good team for, down the line. We got young talent. We still got a couple old guys on the team too. But I don't know. I mean, if this is really what they want to do, then, it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I can definitely see that point. Wags, you've had a lot of time to, mull this information over and think about it. What was your reaction when you saw the news about Petro?
I'm a little surprised that all this came out so soon. I mean, we're still a couple of weeks away from the start of free agency. So you would think that maybe they would be trying to work something out up until that point. So it's a little surprising that it came out now. And that actually kind of makes me sit there and think, man, Alex doesn't really want to go anywhere. I don't think he wants to leave St. Louis. I really don't, because by this coming out, essentially it's putting all the pressure on the Blues organization to get him signed, because we now know what the Blues offered. We know what they're not offering as far as term is concerned. And Alex has stated multiple times that just because it's ended now doesn't mean he's not going to shut the door on re-signing with the Blues. He might, this might be a ploy by both sides to see what else is out there, see what other teams are offering, and then maybe the Blues can up their offer to a little bit closer. Because, if the Blues are offering 7-7 now, and let's say another team comes out and the most that he gets is like 8-2. Well, what if the Blues look at it and go, look, Alex, we'll give you 8 flat, stay here in St. Louis. And he might be like, great, that's awesome. I'll take $200,000 less. I'll stay in St. Louis. It's an upgrade on what they offered. It's a win-win. That's kind of how I'm seeing it playing out, is really they're just kind of looking to see, because you remember, they're going to have a flat cap for the next couple of years. And yes, some teams might be able to throw a bunch of money at them, but the teams that are going to be able to do that are the teams that aren't anywhere near contention for the playoffs. You look at a team like Buffalo. Pietrangelo is not going to go play in Buffalo. And everybody keeps saying, oh, Toronto. Toronto's in the same boat as the Blues when it comes to needing to shed salary. So it's not a guarantee that a team like Toronto is going to be able to throw a ton of money out at him. And I just see it as being one of those things that people shouldn't get worried right now. We're still 2 weeks away from free agency at the most. Maybe something even gets done in that time frame. But I'm betting that free agency opens, some offers come in, Pietrangelo and the Blues look at it and they go, okay, how can we get close enough without going crazy to keep you here? Because I think he wants to be here. He just had his 4th kid. He's only a week or 2 old now. You don't want to move with a less than 1-year-old and triplets. You're going to find a way to stick around.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where Petrangelo's heart is. In fact, before we talk to that aspect, though, I do have Cap Friendly up here for a reason. This is a breakdown of the cap room that these teams have here, especially here on the far right side where there's projected cap space. You're talking like Ottawa, $39.5 million, Detroit, $34.5 million, Buffalo still has $34.5 million, but they still got to fill out half their roster. The Devils have $26 million. I think there's a bit more money out there than I think people realize, when it comes to the cap. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of those teams I just mentioned. They're not contenders. They may not be contenders for a while, maybe not until Pietrangelo, hits 33, 34 years old. So you're not getting exactly optimal value out of him. But a team like Colorado, $22 million. He's been rumored to go there possibly. You have Calgary with $16.9 million. So, out of these teams, Trainwreck, I'll go to you on this one. If it's not St. Louis, where can you see Petro ending up?
I mean, definitely when you talk about the Avalanche, that kind of scares me a little bit. I mean, definitely can happen. I mean, $22 million in cap space, definitely would be enough to sign him. But him being, obviously Colorado didn't have the exit they'd like to this year. I mean, I don't think anybody would have predicted that as well. I mean, Dallas is out here already up 1-0 in the Stanley Cup, team of destiny, who knows? But, I mean, if he goes to Colorado, they would already be upgrading their. Then they have a great defense as well. Like it's been said before, they have defensemen who can play defense and score. They have forwards who can play defense. So throwing Pietrangelo in there is just gonna, how do I put this, be another layer of glue to keep them all together. And of course, playing with Nathan McKinnon too. I mean, he's only stock going up from here now. But I don't know, man. Especially in the division, if he goes to Colorado, are we going to be obligated to hate him now?
We might have to, just because it's Colorado. There's a bit of a simmering rivalry going on there.
People are talking. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, this is all we can do until the Stanley Cup's resolved. I mean, there's going to be talk left and right. Wags, how much would it scare you to think of Petro in the Avs uniform? And if it's not Colorado, where could he go?
It would scare me immensely if he went to Colorado. Just think about this. He'd be there playing with the guy that we shipped out in order for him to take the number one spot, Eric Johnson. I mean, EJ and Pietrangelo playing together, that's just something that makes you go, oh my gosh. And I think they still have Ian Cole too. So you've got, you'd have 3 former Blues in that Colorado defensive lineup. It would be scary. It really would, because this team was essentially a goalie away from really making a deep run and possibly being in the finals this year. Obviously adding Pietrangelo is not going to solve the goaltending situation, but it continues to solidify that defensive core and maybe allows you to prevent as many shots on goal as they face this year. If it's not Colorado, just looking at some of these other teams that have cap space, it's really scary, because you've got a couple other Central Division teams there in Winnipeg and Dallas that have some money as well, projected cap space wise. But Winnipeg's still got a bunch of guys to sign, as does Dallas. It's so hard to choose. I really don't know if I could pick one team out. You know what? Here you go. I'll throw this one out there. This is the team that would probably shock a lot of people, and mainly because they are pretty close to being on the cusp. Vancouver.
Okay.
I mean, they've got about 14.3 in cap space. They have 17 of their 23 guys signed. They've got some youth. They've got a goaltender, whether it's a re-signing of Markstrom or they're going with Thatcher Demko. They've got scoring. They got Quinn Hughes up there, and what better mentor for Quinn Hughes than bringing in an Alex Pietrangelo? So watch out for Vancouver being a sneaky team that could get in there on the Pietrangelo sweepstakes.
Yeah, and that could be, especially because they're probably going to let Jacob Markstrom walk with the emergence of Thatcher Demko this playoff. So, that is a sneaky possibility. And another take that I found online about Pietrangelo and where he could possibly end up, I'll show it to you right here. It is from Andy and Rono from at HockeyStatsCZ. Alex Pietrangelo is one of the best 5 defensemen in the NHL right now. Every team should want him in the FA market. We think he will sign somewhere for 7 years with $9.5 million per year or something like that. We feel Pietrangelo will surprise us with his decision. And that I can definitely see. Just maybe Ottawa gets bold and they feel like that they can go on a run with Pietrangelo, and they give him $10.5 million to entice him to go up there. Maybe Florida. Florida is a team that they brought in Joel Quenneville. They have a lot of young stars that you probably never heard of because they play in Florida. Alex Barkov, Aaron Ekblad, Bobrovsky's down there, Huberdeau. That's a good little team there, and they have $20 million in cap space. That's a team to watch out for. And not only that, but if you're Pietrangelo and you're looking to cash in as much as possible, no state income tax in the state of Florida, so you keep more of what you make down there. That's the team that I'm sneakily worried about here as far as Pietrangelo goes.
And we can still like him too.
Oh yeah, we can still like him because he's going to the Eastern Conference. He's not going to hurt us. It's very unlikely the Blues will play the Panthers in the playoffs in the next 8 years. Of course, watch me eat my words when they meet in the Stanley Cup in 2026.
3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances.
Of course, yeah. Go figure. The Florida dynasty, could begin this winter here. But it kind of you kind of hit on this, Wags, earlier, and that is the fact that Pietrangelo has a family here. He just had his fourth kid. His wife is from St. Louis. And, he talked with Jeremy Rutherford this week. If you want a lot of insight into where Petrangelo's mind is right now, check out Jeremy's article on The Athletic. But in the article, he's quoted as, quote, "You spend your whole career somewhere, and to go through this, the reality kind of hits that there's a chance you're going to be wearing a different jersey one day. It's kind of a tough pill to swallow when you have your heart somewhere." And I'm with you, Wags, in that I don't think that, and Petro said this himself, but I don't think the door is closed on Petro returning to St. Louis.
No, not at all. You saw it in the tweets. Everybody that's talked to him, he hasn't closed the door on it. Like I said, it's so early that you've made this decision to go, okay, we're not going to come to an agreement. You better test free agency. That was the thing that baffled me the most. Why are we not working? I mean, unless they really think that they're that far apart that in the next 2 weeks they're not going to be able to come to some kind of consensus. I think the Blues are sitting there saying, look, we think we know where your value's at based on what the salary cap's going to be for the next few years. You're trying to get as much money as you can possibly get. That's great. That's your prerogative. You deserve it for what you've done. But get to the market, see what's out there. And then all of a sudden, maybe that $7.7 or $8 million a year looks a lot better versus what you were thinking you were going to get, at $9.5, $10 million.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that. And, there's a lot of layers and a lot of aspects to this Pietrangelo decision here. And we actually did have a call on our Blue Notes fan line, 314-329-4349. And it's from my buddy in St. Charles and St. Peter's, actually. And he basically, I think his voicemail that he left for us, very indicative, I think, of what Blues fans are thinking right now. He told me it was kind of all over the place. So let's go ahead and take a listen here in just a sec here, as soon as I get StreamYard to cooperate properly. And in 3, 2, 1, here we go.
So this Alex Pietrangelo situation, I've been trying to wrap my head around, trying to get my thoughts on it. I'm kind of like 50-50 on it as far as whose side I'm on or anything like that. I understand Pietrangelo side won't get paid, but Doug Hartshorn is a smart GM. He knows what he's doing. And so I trust him. If he has his cutoff point, I trust him on that. I guess the big thing I don't understand is all the hate for Armstrong on Twitter that I'm seeing on Twitter about it. I mean, he's proven he's a smart GM. He's proven he knows what he's doing. If he lets Pietrangelo walk, there's probably a good reason he's letting him walk. And I think they'd be fine without him too. Anyway, so in the end, I hope he does come back, but I wouldn't be overly upset if he doesn't.
And I think that's where a lot of fans are right now. And for me, it's like I can understand why Pietrangelo at this stage in his career would want to get paid. And he has a Stanley Cup, and he's still at 30. He's still got some good years left in the tank. And I can understand why he would want to get paid. And it unfortunately, and for reasons that we can harp about, it's just we're not going to get those those golden years with Pietrangelo if he walks. And I guess Trainwreck. I mean, can you blame Pietrangelo at this stage in his career for wanting to get the max contract that he can get?
No, I mean, obviously, it's the part of it has to do with already brought the city of Stanley Cup. He's already done so much for the city of St. Louis, for the Blues community, for the St. Louis community. He's not the kind, doesn't have to ring chase anymore. I mean, you've done what you needed to do. I mean, loyalty goes so far, like I said earlier, but now it's time to just go out there and get the bag. I mean, get as much as you can, play the market, and if it falls in the direction of him returning to St. Louis, let it be. But you can't blame him if he walks away for the money. I mean, it'll hurt, and like your friend said, you want him to come back, but if he doesn't, it's not going to be the end of the world. And so that's where I stand with that. Go get your money, big dog.
Yeah, definitely. And the Blues have a lot of depth, and I think if Petro walks, they will be okay. And go ahead.
Oh, I would say development. I think my power's back on. So.
Oh, there we go. Hey, how about that?
I might during the commercial break switch to the inside laptop.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. So, you want to go do that now and
Yeah,
come
I'll
back in
try
later?
and set it up right now and just just give me a shout back when we're about to get on with the other guys.
All right, sounds good. Trainwreck gonna step out and try to get connected to his power there the better way. We have recovery in action here, Wags. I mean, his power's back on. He's got to step away. I can't blame him for wanting to walk away from this and make sure that he's in an optimal position. But getting back to Petro, so I mean, it's been talked about his age. He's going to get probably a 7-year contract in free agency. I mean, teams would be stupid not to give him one, just because with the way average annual value works out, you can lower the cap hit based on years. It's still a problem in the NHL. But by the time the end of that contract would come around, he'd be 37 years old, and we've seen defensemen in there, once they hit like 34 on, they kind of start to break down a little bit. I always think of Brent Seabrook in this situation. I think of the likes of Duncan Keith. The analytics suggest that maybe Pietrangelo's, dive wouldn't be that bad. But what do you think, Wags? Do you think that he represents a big risk in free agency with his age, or do you think he can, play well into his later contract years?
No, I don't think he's a bigger of a risk as people make it out to be. I compare him a lot to Nick Lidstrom in the sense that he's a very fluid, very solid, very smart defenseman who doesn't put himself into a lot of positions to get injured, doesn't put himself a lot of positions to get hit. And that's when you bring up Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook. Those guys were not finesse defensemen. They were physical. They were going out there laying the body on a lot of guys during a lot of playoff rounds. Alex Pietrangelo is not going to lead the defensive core in hits. That's just not his game. He's more of a finesse defender. He's a guy that he'll go into the dirty areas, but he doesn't put himself in a position to really get injured or hurt or roughed up. So you look at a guy who's 30 who hasn't really had to deal with anything significant injury-wise. Now, granted, that maybe that's getting him set up to have a major injury. We hope not, whether he's with the Blues or not. But I don't see it as being a significant risk. I think, coming a defenseman at age 36, 37 of his ilk, he's going to be fine. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to produce for you for a very long time. His numbers have continued to go up offensively as well. I think it's a smart bargain and a smart move by any team that goes out there and gives him a 7-year deal. I know you can't really say bargain with the top defender on the free agent market, but I think a 7-year deal is not something that a team should be scared of.
Yeah, definitely. And we want to say hello to the Hawaii Blues fan, Guy Bensing, checking in. It's good timing that you actually checked in right now, because we have your Aloha commentary to get to right about now. And it is, of course, about what else, Alex Pietrangelo and the future of the Blues and free agency. And, I got to give you a lot of credit, Hawaii Blues fan, because you recorded your video last night in front of a beautiful Hawaii sunset. It was gorgeous. The problem was it was a little blurry and there was some audio issues. So you were kind enough to re-record it today. Let's get some stick taps for the Hawaii Blues fan for, at first you don't succeed, try again. So let's go ahead and play his Aloha commentary about Pietrangelo and where the Blues go from here.
Aloha! I'm Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, host of the Blue Note Fan Report, and this is my Aloha commentary. As you can see, the sky is overcast, the sun is setting, and I'm wearing a signed Brett Hull jersey. What do those three things have in common? Well, the sun is setting on the NHL season as the Stars and the Lightning get the Stanley Cup Finals underway. And if reports are correct, the sun is also setting on the career of our captain, Alex Pietrangelo, and his tenure in St. Louis. Well, I shouldn't say career, but his time in St. Louis. Let me get to the Stanley Cup Finals first. Wow, this has been pretty exciting from the NHL. The bubble has worked 7 weeks, no positives. The only games that were postponed or canceled were due to the social justice, which was very well done. The Stars have moved their way right through the Western Conference, and they've proved that every one of the moves they made in the offseason, well, they had a scratch in our head, were the right moves. Joel Pavelski has his chance at a cup. Way to go, Joe. St. Louis and Ben Bishop is also there. This will be his second time. The first time was with his opponent, Tampa Bay Lightning. Last year, everyone thought the Tampa Bay Lightning were just going to storm through the playoffs, and lo and behold, they ran into a little bit of cannon fire in the Columbus Blue Jackets, who snuffed them out. And made the first round the Lightning's Appomattox. The Lightning this offseason added Kevin Shattenkirk and Pat Maroon, St. Louisan and former St. Louis player, to give the team some toughness and some grit. And that's exactly what they've done, and it is showing in the playoffs. To be fair, I am filming this after Game 1 has happened, but the pick I'm making is the thought process I had prior to Game 1, and I'm going to stick with it. Lightning in 6. However, if this does go 7, the final game will be played on the 30th of September, meaning that for the first time since 2012, we will have no hockey in October. Gary Bettman said today that next season, they hope for a full 82-game season and 4 rounds, 7-game playoffs. Don't know when the season will start, sometime December, maybe even January, and they're not sure about the Winter Classic or how they're going to handle that. Gary, I got to admit, when it comes to this, you have done a great job, and thank you for your leadership. Now, as the sun sets behind me, it's time to talk about my signed Brett Hull jersey and how that goes in with everything that we've got. Back in 1998, 99, 98, 97, 98, Brett Hull was up for a contract. He was about to be a free agent, and he wanted a no-trade clause. Well, the Blues didn't want to give it to him, and that was enough for a St. Louis icon to walk away. Brett is a special player, and when I say special, I mean in every sense of the word. He just, everything he did was Brett. Well, Alex Pietrangelo may have taken a little bit of notes from Brett and decided to do the same thing. We heard lately that talks between Pietrangelo and the Blues have broken off, and the Blues have told him to pursue free agency. This is a very fluid situation. Just recently got a tweet from Lou Coric of NHL.com, who said he had a conversation with Pietrangelo, and he does not see this being done, that Pietrangelo really wants to stay in St. Louis. And remember, his wife's from St. Louis, and he just had he has a 7 or 8 day old newborn. Congratulations, by the way, Pietrangelo. I think about this in a really different way, and while the overcast skies could leave some overcast on the Blues, the sunset is beautiful. And if Pietrangelo does leave, he leaves with a beautiful sunset. It also opens the doors for Doug Armstrong to make some moves. A goalie, a top 6 forward. The free agent market is wide open. I got to thank Alex Pietrangelo for his time here, if this is his swan song. I appreciate everything you did for us. And, you know, now all the bobbleheads I have except, well, actually, no, I got some active bobbleheads. I had to think about that for a second. Well, guys, I hope I turn lemons into lemonade and you enjoy this Aloha Commentary. This is Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, host of the Blue Note Fan Report and Aloha Commentary, saying, Aloha, mahalo. You gotta know I'm bleeding blue with you, and I'll see you on the next Aloha Commentary and Blue Note Fan Report. Aloha.
And an aloha goes out to our friend, the Hawaii Blues fan. Thank you very much for that commentary once again. And, you know, he kind of touched, before we move on here, one more thing here. He kind of touched up on, Wags, about the free agency and where the Blues could possibly go from here. You know, if you're Doug Armstrong and you're thinking, okay, we don't have to, you know, hoard every nickel and penny for Alex Pietrangelo. Now you've got some options, you know, as to, you know, free agency and what you can do to fill some of the, you know, holes on the team. Like, for instance, you know, if you're not convinced Ville Husso is going to be the backup, do you get a veteran to compete with him? But of course, the big thing is the Tarasenko void, you know, and how you fill that. Now, Armstrong in the past has said that he wants guys like Kyrou to step up and maybe, you know, maybe not fully fill the production of Tarasenko, but at least fill that role as a way for him to grow his game a little bit. But, you know, if you're Doug Armstrong, Wags, and, you know, Petro is going to test free agency and maybe playing elsewhere, what do you do? Hey, Wags, I think you're muted. Did you mute your mic?
Oh, yeah, I think I'm back.
There we go.
I'm back. Really,
professional broadcaster.
You know, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. That's a tough thing for Doug Armstrong, because I don't think you go out and sign another defenseman. I mean, you're looking at the free agent defenseman outside of Pietrangelo. Torrey Krug's a free agent. TJ Brody, Tyson Barrie, Kevin Shattenkirk's actually going to be a free agent as well. But I just don't see any of those guys being someone that you bring in, especially when you got guys like Perunovic and Mikkola down in the minors that you're probably going to have play big minutes for the Blues this year. Goaltending-wise, you know, Robin Lehner's a free agent, but he's going to be re-signed by Vegas. There's no question about that. Jacob Markstrom's going to get a starting spot somewhere. You know, then you have Cam Talbot, Braden Holtby, Thomas Greiss, and Anton Hudobin. I got to think that Hudobin gets an extension there as well. And, you know, Braden Holtby's a guy that's probably going to get another starting gig somewhere as well. But, you know, that might be actually not a bad route for the Blues to go, is going out there and getting a guy like Braden Holtby or Henrik Lundqvist if he gets bought out. You know, give some experience behind Binnington, that if he doesn't, you know, step up again this year, that you've got somebody experienced that can go in there. Does that happen? I don't think so. Honestly, I think the only move the Blues could even consider, and it's still an absolute long shot, is going after Taylor Hall. I mean, they're going to have the money. They're going to have some money. I'll put it that way. They're going to have some money. They're going to need to fill that void for Vladimir Tarasenko. The rest of the list of free agent forwards is I mean, Ilya Kovalchuk, Mike Hoffman, Tyler Toffoli, Derek Grant, Jasper Fast, and just nobody that really like jumps out and goes, okay, that guy's going to really help. So if the Blues do anything, I think they put the full court press on Taylor Hall and see if they can bring him here. That's about the only thing I can see them doing in free agency.
Yeah, and that's you know, but that would create more problems down the road, because again, you've got a lot of players like Jaden Schwartz is going to be an unrestricted free agent after this offseason. So if you throw big money at Taylor Hall, are you basically kissing, you know, Jaden Schwartz goodbye? You know, this team's going to be handcuffed a little bit, you know, in terms of what they can do. And you know, besides Taylor Hall, of the guys that you mentioned, I don't see what they bring over a Jordan Kyrou that would be that valuable, you know, like that would be worth, you know, paying, you know, $3.5 million a year for, you know, like as some of those guys might get, just because scoring is always at a premium in free agency. So it's going to be an interesting offseason, to say the least. And by the way, I couldn't help but laugh internally when you brought up Kevin Shattenkirk, because if Blues fans are already tired of Justin Falk's defensive lapses, Shattenkirk will give people acid reflux, with them both on the ice. So as much as I love Shattenkirk, and as talented as he is, and we actually have Chase Crawshaw waiting in the waiting room to come on. He's probably hearing us diss Kevin Shattenkirk right now and probably not appreciating it very much. That's not an option. I don't think they need defense. I think they have enough defensive depth. They still have Robert Bortuzzo on the right side, so you have 3 right-handed defensemen there. Mitch Reinke probably would be the top right-handed guy in Springfield this year. But then again, you have guys on the left side, I think, that could probably play on the right side in a pinch. Like, I'm pretty sure Gunnarsson's played a little bit on the right side. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so there's still some options here for sure. So we're going to go ahead and go into our Blue Notes face-off of the week. It is a special Stanley Cup edition of the Blue Notes face-off. We have Michael Farley representing the Dallas Stars and the Clean Skate podcast, and we have Chase Crawshaw of the Bolt Broadcast podcast here on the Hockey Podcast Network representing the Lightning. They're going to convince you, Blues fans, why you should support their team in the Stanley Cup final. And it's more than just the St. Louis connections, although there are a couple with both teams. So we'll go ahead and get to that. But first, we got to pay some bills. We'll do that and then come right back with our Blue Notes face-off of the week.
This episode of the Blue Notes podcast is sponsored by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Got a crazy bush? If you trim your hedges, your tree stands taller. Have you ever wished she was smoother down there? She probably has too. If you're anything like me, and or just not a neurosurgeon with a steady hand, you probably neglect below the belt. Manscaped has us covered. Millions of balls are about to be nick-free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin-safe technology. Manscaping accidents are finally a thing of the past. Whew! One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates growing areas for closer and more precise trimming. That's insane! If you're listening to me speak right now, you're one of the first people to hear about this life-changing product, and I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use the promo code THPN at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. Get 20% off and free shipping again with promo code THPN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code THPN. The best in men's below-the-belt grooming.
Are you at Kenny Rogers now? Or no, that's your...
No, no. It's just my display name. It's still at Ken Stabler, but
is Rogers your middle name? Sorry, I don't even know.
No, you don't know who Kenny Rogers is? The gambler?
No.
What?
I'm a deer in headlights, buddy. I'm a deer in headlights.
Anyways, Kenny Rogers, very infamous country singer, and also just what the O-Dog has deemed my nickname. He just keeps calling me Kenny Rogers, or referring to me in the third person as the gambler. So
O-Dog.
He was roasting me the other day on Overdrive on Labor Day because I shot him a text message during the show.
No way.
I have to say something. Kenny Rogers, I know you can hear this right now. Don't ever text me on my personal phone. He just texted me and said, I'm doing updates, guy.
I love it. Good man, Kenny. He's in there
Kenny.
working.
But he was roasting me on air, man. I was at work doing the updates, and he was saying that I got the day off, so I had to defend my honor.
Not Another Leafs podcast. New episodes Mondays on the Hockey Podcast Network.
And in the green corner, we have Michael Farley of the Dallas Stars Clean Skate Podcast. And in the blue corner, we have Chase Crawshaw of the Bolts Broadcast representing the Tampa Bay Lightning. How's it going, guys?
Well, after last night, it's going pretty damn good.
Yeah, a little different for me, but I'm not worried.
Yeah, I'm not feeling the worry coming from your way either. It's still a long series to be played for sure here. So we brought both of you guys on to talk about the Stanley Cup and convince Blues fans why we should support your respective teams. But before we get to that, I do want to do a small aside here with Michael. So the Blues this week, they hired former Dallas Stars head coach Jim Montgomery to be an assistant coach for them. Tell me a little bit about what the Blues are getting with Montgomery.
Well, I mean, obviously, the big thing that everyone when they hear that name is he got fired, and for obviously the alcohol abuse and all that stuff. So I mean, I am all for giving people second chances and all that stuff. He was a really good coach. Like, we started off the season really slow, but you got to remember, we went 14-1-1 to sort of salvage the season with him still as the head coach. So I wouldn't say the fact that the Stars started slow this season was because of him, and he definitely got them back on track. So from a coaching perspective, like just looking at the hockey, like you're going to be getting someone who is he's hard on his players. Like, he's coming out of college, so like he's a little bit more like bark at you a little bit more, right? Like, really get down to business. He's big into, like the physical side of things, and like making sure everyone's in shape and not taking breaks off and stuff like that. So, for an assistant coach, I think that's great. I don't know how he is really like on like a personal basis with players. Like, from a coaching standpoint, he's a hard coach. Players seem to play for him. And like I said, he got the Stars sort of back on track and into the position where Rick Bowness was able to then step in once he was relieved of his job due to personal issues, and continue to lead this team into where they are now.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good hire, for the Blues. Jim Montgomery, before he started in Dallas, was very highly regarded in the college ranks. He was coaching Denver University before he started with the Stars and Wags. I mean, I think he's going to bring a lot of good to this team and fill some of that void that Mark Savard's leaving.
Yeah, he fits the profile of a Craig Berube kind of coach. Like you said, physical. He likes to play. He likes to coach that kind of game. And the Dallas power play wasn't too bad either during the regular season when he was installed as coach. So that's kind of where Mark Savard was working with the Blues this year, was the power play unit. So bringing the physicality, but also bringing that power play experience is going to be big for the Blues. And don't forget, I know it was only a cup of coffee, but he did play a year with St. Louis early on in his career, so he has a familiarity with the St. Louis Blues organization. So second chance with an organization you're familiar with could be a really, really good thing for the Blues.
And he's gonna make sure that the players never take a shift off. Like, that was the biggest thing, is like he was always, every time players came to the bench, he's talking to them, he's telling them what he saw in their shift and what he wants to see on the next shift. So he's always keeping that energy on the bench going and making sure players are accountable during their shifts.
Yeah, it seems really compatible with Craig Berube, a guy who is also a player's coach himself. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for the Blues this year. But now we got to get down to brass tacks here. It is the Stanley Cup Finals. The Dallas Stars against the Tampa Bay Lightning would not have been my pick, before the playoffs started at all. I mean, I thought Tampa was going to get there at the end, just because they were out to avenge what happened last year, and they're just so damn deep and so damn good. But, Dallas, the Cinderella team of this year, I guess in a lot of ways, the St. Louis Blues of this year's playoffs. So before we, break down, what each team brings, I want to, go back to game one here, which was played the night before this was broadcast. The Stars take game one 4-1. Chase, you said you're not worried.
No, I'm not. I mean, the first two periods were brutal. You got to be honest. Tampa looked god awful, but really all playoffs, like anytime that they have looked bad, which has been pretty rare, they've immediately bounced right back and looked absolutely dominant again. And you saw in the third period, they were dominating all the offense. They controlled it. They just couldn't get it past Khudobin. He was playing a hell of a game, as he's played really all playoffs. So I'm really not concerned. This offense is it's too high powered, and then the team is just too deep on the back end. And then obviously having the best goalie in the league and net helps out. So I'm not concerned at all.
Farley, your thoughts?
Honestly, that was probably the best Dallas Stars hockey game I've seen all playoffs. So we've seen some really good Dallas Stars games, but like he said, you dominated the third 100%. But that's the Dallas Stars are okay with that. They had two shots on net, and one of them was the empty netter in the third period. Like they came out hard in the first period, and it was a back and forth first period. They came out, and I say that the second period was probably the Stars' best period. They flat out dominated, I thought, in the second period. And then they had that lead going into the third period. We were lucky enough that it was a 2-goal lead because we scored right at the end of the second. But to be honest, even if Kiviranta doesn't score at the end of that one, going into the third period with a 1-goal lead, like, they're not nervous about that. They've contained offenses. I think they've only been they've only outshot opponents throughout the entire playoffs, like 2 games so far. If you look at Colorado, you look at Vegas, possession wise, shot wise, all of those, metrics, the Dallas Stars are getting just caved in on them. But that's okay. The third period came around, and I was actually watching this game at a buddy of mine who is a huge Tampa fan, and he's watching it, and the third period starts, and I'm like, y'all are in for probably the most boring period of hockey you've ever seen. It's going to be the Lightning coming to the zone, a little bit of momentum, and then Dallas Stars are going to chip in out of the zone and let you guys come right back down again and do it. So from a game standpoint, I was pretty pleased with the outcome, and obviously how can you be?
No, that's fair. It does suck. They played so horribly, and then finally get going in the third period. It's brutal not having Stamkos in the lineup. Braden Point's playing injured. Hopefully, I don't know how much rest he needs. I don't know exactly what the injury is either. Probably something with a groin is what I saw. So if just even these couple days of rest can help that out. Braden Point playing on his A game. He's looked like one of the best players in these playoffs. Victor Hedman, and I'd say, honestly, in my opinion, Victor Hedman and Miro Heiskanen have been the 2 best players in the playoffs. So Victor Hedman, if he plays a little bit stronger of a game coming into game 2, he's going to score a goal at some point. He's going to break that single playoff season goal record, that is. And this, just when you look at these rosters, Tampa, how can you count them out? How can you ever at any point even think about counting them out? They're just flat out better in every single way.
See, I get that feeling, but I would say that it's been that way for every single series other than the Flames series Dallas has played. You look at Colorado on paper, and I know they had a lot of injuries right at the beginning of the series, but you look at Colorado on paper, that's a hell of a team. You look at you look at Vegas on paper, that's a hell of a team. I would argue that. And this is the way I've looked at it. The Flames series was the most physical series the Stars played so far in this. So they've learned and they've got their wheels under them in that sense. The Colorado series was the most offensively powered team they've played so far. Even though I know Landeskog was in and out of the lineup in that one as well. But still, McKinnon, Rantanen, they've got such a deep team. Cale Makar on the back end. That's such a offensively firepowered team and you saw the Stars, they were just letting them skate at them. So they learned how to control that sort of speed and offense. And then you play the Golden Knights, which in my opinion is now between the Flames and the Avalanche is the most complete team out of all of them. They have they work as a unit the best so far out of the Calgary and Avalanche series. So every single series has sort of been leading up to taking on now the juggernaut of Tampa that has outstanding offense, fantastic. They play as a unit and they play physical as well. They've got guys that get hit in there. So honestly, every single series Dallas has played has been preparing them for this one.
That's fair.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the strengths of each team here in just a little bit. Wags will ask you that, but first of all, we have a question from one of our listeners, Roland Spink. This is for you, Chase. The Lightning touched the Conference Cup. Do you think that's bad luck?
No, not at all. In 2015, they didn't touch it and they lost. So you got to flip it around. You can't just not touch it again. It didn't work the last time, so why the hell should it work this time? You got to flip it around.
Yeah, that means reverse psychology, right?
Exactly. That makes all the difference. That little superstition, it makes all the difference in the playoffs,
And Dallas touched theirs, so this will be the test,
Fair.
Oh boy.
Game 7 will have like 10 overtimes because, the universe can't decide which team's more cursed.
See, for an outside fan, that sounds incredible.
That's really painful to me.
That's great for us. You guys are touching on some of the guys that need to come up big in this series. Braden Point, and you're talking about a lot of guys on Dallas. But what's the one piece of strength that your team has that will ultimately decide this series?
Let me start. All right. So, I mean, if I had to really pick just one strength, I would have to say just the flat out offensive power. You could look at the goaltending, you could look at the depth of this defense, playing 11-7 all playoffs and still being so dominant. But at the end of the day, if Braden Point's playing up to his game, Kudrow's playing up to his game, Tyler Johnson is being productive, if you're getting that depth kind of guys from Goodrow and Coleman and Yanni Gord, and we might even see Stamkos at some point in this series. He's not been ruled out yet. So if he can come in and actually prove he's game shape, how do you stop this offense? The hottest goalie in the world would still have trouble stopping this offense regardless. So this team has just got so much firepower. I have a hard time seeing Dallas stopping them the rest of the series.
I think we run into, yet again, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object in this, which is what I was saying for the Colorado series as well. You're talking about strengths. I think the biggest strength, you're talking about offense. I think biggest strength is team defense, and that starts with goaltending, but then that works its way out to our defense is really good at either skating the puck out or break out. Miro Heiskanen and John Klingberg are zone exiting and entering machines. And then you have, everyone on the team. Tyler Seguin laying down to block shots. Pavelski is a shot blocking machine. Essel and Dell finished a couple games against Vegas and Colorado with over 9 shot blocks in one game. They are 100%. Everyone is full in to that defense, which is what you saw in that third period.
Well, that's crazy because for the longest time when we were talking about Dallas and advancing in the playoffs, it was always if they could just get their defense right, they could be a scary team. And that was what I was looking at when this playoff started. You were wondering about the offensive capabilities because they were kind of flat going into the playoffs. But that defense has been incredible for Dallas this year. And in my mind, that was what the missing link has been for them the last 4 or 5 years. And it's a scary thing when you see that.
No, that is fair. It is amazing what they're doing really without Bishop. I always thought Khudobin was a hell of a backup, but did not expect him to come in and be able to handle this starting load throughout the playoffs, since he's ever had to go in. But man, he has looked awesome. And that the one thing that would semi-worry me about this Dallas team, of course, is that defense and just how sound they tend to be. But as I keep saying it over and over again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's just true. The offensive power of Tampa is just so strong that it does not concern me enough.
Yeah, it's going to be that, like I said, it's going to be that unstoppable force, immovable object. Who wins that? We've been asking that question for eternity. So who wins?
Yeah,
it's a good question, and I want to get into some of the Stars' unheralded heroes this offseason. I mean, we've had guys like Kivi Ranta who have become part of the NHL lexicon this offseason. And then, of course, you have this beauty right here, the sweaty Kazakh himself, Anton Khudobin, or I guess it's Hudobin, excuse me. What exactly has been behind the rise of guys like a Kivi Ranta or a Hudobin?
Well, I think there's some they're very different paths, I think, for Kivi Ranta and Hudobin. Hudobin played KHL. He played in the ECHL here in Florida for the Everblades. He played for Boston. He is the definition of a journeyman. But for Hudobin, he finished the regular season with the best save percentage out of all goalies. He only played about 35 games, so I get that's a smaller sample size compared to your starters and Vasilevsky, who is going to win the Vezina and stuff like that. There's a big difference between workload for sure, which is why it's so impressive that he has been able to come in and play almost all of our playoff games so far, while Bishop has been made of glass, as the Tampa guys know very, very well. Yeah. So, I mean, Hudobin finished with the best save percentage in 30 games, but that's not a 930 save percentage in 5 games. That's a pretty decent amount of games against NHL shooters. So he's just come into it, and then I think the playoffs are the time when just magic happens and you hit that perfect point of confidence. He's feeling good, the team's playing well in front of him, and his biggest thing for me is he used to give up a lot of rebounds, right? He plays a relatively unorthodox goalie style. He's flopping all over the net and stuff like that, so he used to give up a lot of rebounds. But this playoffs, one of the biggest things that just kills offense for the Stars or for in the Stars' favor is he swallows everything. If the shot doesn't have traffic in front of it, he's stopping it and he's holding it, and the play's dead, and then we can work on getting a defensive zone face-off, which the Stars have gotten quite good at. So it's I think it's just like the perfect time and the playoffs where he's just elevated his game to next level. I mean, for Kiviranta though, Kiviranta's come out of nowhere. He undrafted. He did win a gold medal on the Finnish World Championship team a couple years ago. So he has, big game experience and that sort of stuff. But how do you predict, right? He scores a hat trick in game 7 against, how do you call that, right? He's, like I said, he's undrafted. He played pretty well in the AHL for the Stars. The Stars have a really strong AHL team as well. And so I think there's a lot of strong development that happens down there. And I mean, you see guys Stars fans for a while thought Guryanov was going to be a bust. Hintz we were waiting on for a while, but the Stars, the Texas Stars have really churned out some really strong forwards so far for us.
Well, I would keep that Hudobin picture up, but I think we lost about 80% of our viewership when I put it up. So we're going to pull that down right now. But I'm going to switch it over to Tampa now. Of course, Tampa's facing a very hot goalie in Anton Hudobin. You have Andrei Vasilevsky, who has been, pound for pound, one of the best goaltenders in the game of hockey going today. I mean, even though Hudobin is rising up like a meteor, I mean, how do you view the goalie matchup from the Tampa side?
I mean, in terms of just pure talent, pure ability, I don't think it's very close. Hudobin right now, he's kind of the hot goalie. He is a hell of a goalie. Don't get me wrong, and he's kind of the hot guy right now. But Vasilevsky, even when he's off, he's still a top 10 goalie in the league. If he's having a bad day, a bad stretch, he's just so unbelievably dominant. It's impressive the things he does, the saves he makes. Just the crazy cross greasers that you see, all these highlight reels. They're natural to him. He doesn't have to put in this crazy hard effort. It just feels so effortless. And if you get a goalie like that who can, play so effortlessly and be a top 3, maybe best goalie in the league, my opinion, best goalie in the league, that's impressive. It's rare. Obviously that's rare, being the best goalie in the league, but I just how do you get past a guy like that? I mean, granted, we saw in game 1, he did give up a couple weaker goals in my opinion, but anytime he's given up weak goals, he's immediately bounced back.
How much does he remind you of a guy like Dominik Hasek?
It's similar. No one is exactly like Dominik Hasek, and that guy flopped around like a fish. You didn't understand how he made 85% of the saves he made, but it was just unbelievable. But it's similar in terms of the reflexes, in terms of the desperation saves. It's how it becomes natural to them. It is pretty similar.
Well, there's also a lot of St. Louis connections here for both of these teams. You've got Patrick Maroon, you've got Kevin Shattenkirk, both on Tampa. You've got Ben Bishop on the Stars. Obviously, Maroon and Bishop both have legit St. Louis ties, being from here. What kind of impacts have these guys had on these teams? And I want to start in Dallas first. What is Hudobin's impact going to be on Ben Bishop going forward as well?
Well, Hudobin is a UFA at the end of this season, and Ben Bishop is signed for the next 3 at $4.9 million per season. So I think especially with the way Hudobin's played, I don't see how you don't pay the man and keep him around, at least for a little bit. Bishop, he frustrated all my friends. He was in Tampa because he got hurt right before the playoffs, and it seems he does that yet again. It was, I think, to be honest, I think the fact that he wasn't injured in last season's playoffs when you guys got so acquainted with him in that series is an outlier. I think it's not the rule comparatively. So if it's me in the GM chair, he's got a modified no trades, and he's getting older, and he's obviously got a track record of injury, so it's definitely going to be harder to move on from him. But I don't see how you don't look for a way to move on from Bishop and just test the market. You guys were talking earlier before we came on about the goalie market that's about to happen, right? So I don't see how you don't try and re-sign Hudobin with the amazing work he's done. And even if you don't have to give Hudobin the starting job because of this. Hudobin doesn't have to be your starter. You can go back to having Hudobin play 35 games. And to be honest, that might be a little bit more enticing for some of the free agent goalies that want to come to Dallas. They see that, I have a really, really strong backup that's going to play 35, 40 games this season and put up quality games. All I have to do is play the other, the majority of that and be decent at it, and we're going to be solid. So I think if anything, Hudobin's putting a little bit of pressure on Jim Nill to maybe find someone better than Bishop, because he hasn't really impressed me a ton, and just the timing of his injuries are just always so backbreaking.
Yeah, I think Hudobin's going to have enough money for a lot more wings and beer in the future. That's for sure.
Maybe a shirt. Possibly?
Maybe a shirt. Yeah, get the guy a shirt. Come on, quit creeping the ladies out.
Yeah, so let's jump over to Tampa and really what's the impact that, Patrick Maroon, I mean, Shattenkirk to an extent, but what is the impact especially Patrick Maroon has made for Tampa this year? I think he added the grit that they were missing last year, but what does it look like on your guys' end?
100%. Signing Patrick Maroon, seeing him through the season, helped Tampa, and Julian Breezewell realized, okay, we maybe need an extra guy or two like this, and that's when they made the trades that they did in the regular season, right at the deadline, to get Goodrow and Coleman, because you realize that last year this team was 100% skill, no grit, and they got embarrassed by Columbus. Now that Patrick Maroon came in, he's won a cup, he's kind of leading by example, he's out there, he's doing all the dirty stuff that you need to win. Tampa finally just realized they get those guys, and those guys have been probably, like, other than Braden Point and Victor Hedman, they've been the most solid, consistent contributors for Tampa throughout these playoffs. They've made them so hard to play against. If they didn't have guys like that, I would have counted them out 100% against Boston. But since they finally had those guys that could counter Boston's physicality, I just thought, it was an easy run for Tampa, and it ended up showing that. So Patrick Maroon, the real big rig, man, he has been he has been awesome for this Lightning team. And if they can keep a good amount of this core together and keep bringing in guys like that for the next couple of years, with they're gonna have limited salary, which is the issue. But if they can bring in those depth guys that play that type of role, this team could be like a multiple Stanley Cup type of team.
All right, who's the real big rig, Farley?
All right, so I might get run out of town for this one, but I knew Patrick Maroon as the big rig long before before he was in Tampa. All right,
Game 7, double overtime last year.
And listen, Patrick Maroon, I have also gotten the pleasure of, I don't want to say like meeting him, but I've seen him and his family around, and I've met the little rig. So it's like, I love Jamie Alexiak, but Maroon's the big rig in my heart.
All right, that's fair.
But that's the only point I'm conceding on.
All right, there you go. Let it be known. That's the only point. All right, that's fair. So now, for both teams, it's been a little while since you've won your last cup. I know for the Lightning, it's been since the mid-2000s. Of course, for the Stars, it was, the Brett Hull, year, in 1999, the guy that gave you the name of your podcast, after all. And so, I mean, how much is, does it feel like a long time coming for both of your teams? We'll start off with Tampa. I mean, does it feel like it's time to break the drought?
Oh, 100%, especially with how good this team has been for years. Going to the finals back in 2015, you thought, all right, this team's going to be back here again in a year or two. But no, they had to wait 5 more years. This team, they have too much power. They've been too good for too many years in a row now that have shown nothing for it. This is far past time for their second cup.
And Farley, I mean, it's been a while since Brett Hull had his skate in the crease. Does it feel like it's time to break the drought in Dallas?
I think so. Luckily, we've gotten rid of some of those, pesky rules like that. so we have a little bit better of a chance. I mean, you saw even on the first goal yesterday, Corey Perry was literally standing behind Vasilevsky. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's been too long. There's been some really good players. I mean, listen, Jamie Benn won a scoring title on this team a few seasons ago now. They've had decent teams. They've had some not so good teams, and I'm thinking about the Kerry Lettinen years. But they've finally figured it out. They've drafted well, and I think a lot of people were scratching their heads a little bit at the beginning of the season with some of the veteran moves they did. But I mean, this is the moment they paid all that money for Pavelski and Perry for these moments. So it's been a long time coming, I think.
And I just gotta say, he said at the beginning of his statement, he said he thinks it's time for his team. I know it's time for my team, so that could be enough right there.
Well, now we're just gonna lay it out for you guys. This is your moment. This is your soapbox moment. Get up there and tell us why we should root for your team for us of those us in St. Louis? And we'll start with Farley, and we'll move over to Chase after that.
All right, so first, I want to come out and get ahead of some things my opponent is probably going to say. I am well aware the Dallas Stars are actively employing Corey Perry to play hockey for them. I know. Listen, the moment Corey Perry leaves the Dallas Stars, I will join all of you in returning to hate him. But I would like to make you all think, if you had Corey Perry on your team, how would you feel about it? So that's my first thing. That's my first thing. But second, Anton Hudobin, outside of his outstanding play on the ice, is an amazing guy. His just journey in hockey is an incredible story. I mean, you were mentioning all the weird like Kiviranta out of nowhere. We've got a lot of feel-good stories. I think if you're looking to take an underdog, the Dallas Stars have been the underdog in 90% of all of their series so far. It's just the way it is. And you know what? We won't have anyone that'll launch a puck into your bench.
Ooh.
I think you just launched a puck into the bench right there.
Yeah.
Man, don't say.
All right, Chase, it's your turn. You got to respond to that.
Well, first thing I want to start off with, I mean, really, this is just Tampa Bay coach against Tampa Bay coach, since Rick Bowness was an assistant coach under John Cooper anyway. So this is just two Tampa teams playing each other. This isn't Dallas's identity. But I mean, honestly, Dallas is already up in the series 1-0 by the time we're recording this. Why root for the team that's already winning? In theory, the underdogs, the team's got to come back from being down 1-0. So Tampa's they come back in this series, man. They're struggling. They're heavily unfavored. Dallas is just clearly the favorites now. So why wouldn't you want to root for Tampa? And then St. Louis fans, I mean, Patrick Maroon is the man. Why wouldn't you want Patrick Maroon to win back-to-back Stanley Cups? And this whole Tampa team, Patrick Maroon is also the only one with a Stanley Cup. So why wouldn't you want guys like Victor Hedman and Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, and Andrei Vasilevsky? Why wouldn't you want these guys winning cups? I mean, Dallas, you want Corey Perry's name on the cup again, as you just mentioned? Yuck. Nope. I'm good. Thanks.
I got to admire you, and I'll give you a chance to retort if you want to, Farley, but I got to admire you, Chase, for daring to take the, underdog card with Tampa in this one here, because, really everyone was writing off Dallas way back in the round robin. So that's bold. I'm going to give you that. Do you have a retort, Farley?
I mean, if you want to talk about feel-good stories, Rick Bowness's first head coaching job in the NHL was to coach the expansion Ottawa Senators, who, if you'll remember, then had the record worst year in NHL history. So he's been around since and I'll say it again, expansion Ottawa Senators. The dude's been in hockey forever, and this is his first even sniff at a cup. No thanks to Tampa a couple of years ago. So, if you're looking for someone who deserves a cup, I'd go with the dude that's been in hockey for almost 50 years and this is his first Stanley Cup Finals. So that's my closing statement is do it for Bowness.
See, I'd rather root for Steven Stamkos, the guy whose career could have been a absolutely legendary one, but has just been riddled with unfortunate injury after unfortunate injury after unfortunate injury. Especially if he can make an appearance in this finals, like how do you not root for that?
So I think to counteract that, in the game that Stamkos comes back, we'll start Bishop.
Boy,
that sounds like a matchup to me.
Though to be fair, with the way Hudobin's playing, that might be a downgrade. So
I was going to say that might end 6-5, and not in the way you wanted to.
That's very true.
All right, you both have made your points. Now it's up for me and Wags to decide where we're going from here. So Wags, you've heard their arguments. Who you backing?
Yeah, that's tough because you've got the Maroon connection. You also got the Maroon Cooper connection as far as the Bandits are concerned. So there's that deeper level of story right there. If you want to talk about stories, how about taking those guys that won a championship with the Bandits, and then all of a sudden now you can have a chance of winning a championship at the highest level together. That's huge. As you know, I'm a big story-driven sports fan. I love the stories that go along into how a team gets there. And looking at what Dallas has done I actually picked Dallas to beat Vegas in the Western Conference Finals. I was one of the few that actually picked them to win that series. Their stories are incredible. It's the underdog. It's everything that has gone into it. It's the similar story to the Blues. But I'll say this. I thought Philadelphia was a similar Blues example this year as well, and look how well they panned out. So as much as I want to take Dallas in 6, I'm going to go with Tampa because of the overwhelming offensive capabilities that they have. But it is literally by this much that I'm taking Tampa Bay over Dallas. This is a toss-up series to me, and I didn't think I'd ever be able to say that.
Welcome to the team, Wags.
Well, going into this playoffs, if it had come down to this point and you would ask me, like at the beginning of the playoffs, who would you back? Well, I would point out that, yes, Tampa has Pat Maroon, the pride of Oakville. They have Kevin Shattenkirk, the former St. Louis Blue. And they're also, Tampa's the city of my birth. I was born in Tampa, and I grew up in Tarpon Springs. Well, at least for the first 3 years of my life, and then I moved up north. But that being said, there's a lot pulling me towards Tampa. They've always been kind of like my number 2 team, outside the Blues. I figure, Eastern Conference, it's safe, it's fine. But
I know you've got a Dallas Stars whole jersey back there somewhere.
But,
I know it's
But here's what's pulling me to Dallas. Dallas is a true underdog story this year. They started off this year so terrible. Their coach got fired for just basically malpractice, and off the ice issues. This team, I remember the early podcast that you were on, Blue Notes, Farley. Your team was in an absolute free fall. It was not looking good for you guys. And then going into the playoffs, you managed to hold on to the number, 4 seed going into the round robin. Everyone thinks that's where you're going to be. No one gives you a chance. You end up as the 3 seed over the St. Louis Blues, who decided not to show up for the playoffs this year. You can blame COVID if you want. That's fine. But the fact is, even though everyone wrote off the Stars, you've ridden the wave of some unknowns, some surprise superheroes, including my spirit animal, Anton Hudobin. And let's face it, there's, Hudobin's story is, in a lot of ways very similar to Jordan Binnington's last year. Granted, Hudobin was more of a known name, but this is, he's also getting a chance to shine in hockey's biggest stage. And I respect the heck out of that. I respect the heck out of guys like Kiviranta coming up out of nowhere to, claim their spot. I respect Gurianov has had himself a heck of a playoffs as well. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of him. But the fact of the matter is, last year, and I've given Farley all sorts of shit over this every time he comes on our podcast about the double overtime Game 7 Pat Maroon goal that sunk the Stars. But after that series, I came away with a lot of respect for the Dallas Stars. And it felt like 2 warriors battling it out. It's a warriors rivalry. There's not like any bad blood per se, but it's a respected rivalry. So in this finals here, I'm going to say Dallas wins in 7. And if you had to ask me which team I would rather win, I'm going to say by this much, just like Wags, I'm going to go with Dallas.
All right. Well,
we're split.
Welcome. You can officially count yourself as a cowpoke then.
All right. I'm a cowpoke. I can put that on my resume, right?
I think so.
I'll take a beach over a cowboy hat any day. So.
And by the way, what makes this is the fact that Dallas's goal music is performed by Pantera.
Yeah.
I mean, I can never go against Pantera. So there you go.
Fair enough.
There you go.
And
so
I do just want to say something real quick. As heartbroken as I would be if Tampa were to lose this cup, last summer I was in Vegas and I did put a little money on Dallas 20-1 winning the cup. So either my team wins or I make some money.
So there's your concession.
Yeah.
My biggest beef with Tampa is, and I live in Florida, and I went to high school in Tampa, and so I played high school hockey in Tampa, so all of my friends are Tampa Bay Lightning fans, and if they win this cup, I will not hear the end of it.
I hope so.
My mental sanity can't take it. I couldn't do it.
So for Farley's sake and Sweaty Kazakhs, support Dallas. For Pat Maroon and Kevin Shattenkirk, support Tampa. So there you go. That's the official word. So guys, thank you so much for being on. Thanks for not getting too bloody with one another in this Stanley Cup title bout. Where can we find you guys? We'll start off with the Eastern Conference champs, Chase.
So you can find the Bolts Broadcast Twitter at Bolts Broadcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Chawdust. You can also, while you're at it, if you decide to hop on this Tampa bandwagon before it's too late and they already win the cup, you can get some Bolts Broadcast merch while you're at it too at boltsbroadcast.whatforapparel.com.
Well, on my side, I don't have any merch. That's pretty neat. I should probably get on that. However, if you want to follow me on Twitter while I complain about the refs and all that stuff and just scream into the internet, you can follow me on Twitter at CleanSkatePod. And if you want to listen to, me explain everything that went into Dallas winning the cup in a little bit, and I'm sure that the two of us will be talking no matter the outcome in the coming weeks. So if you want to hear that episode, you can find it wherever you listen to the Blue Notes as well.
All righty, guys. Well, thanks a lot for coming on and making some very good arguments.
We don't wish luck anymore, but good day.
All righty. Take care, guys. All right, that was Chase Crawshaw and Michael Farley representing the Lightning and Stars, respectively. Go follow them on Twitter. They're a good group of guys. And, I will say one more final thing about this series, Wags. This is going to be one of those series where I'm not going to feel bad if either team wins.
Same here. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good storylines on both sides, and both of them have played – I think they both played the right way to get to the finals as well. So, yeah, whoever comes out of this, you're really not going to be disappointed, even though it's not the Blues. I think whoever wins is going to be a team that deserves to win it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's going to do it for this episode of Blue Notes. We'll be watching the Stanley Cup alongside you as well. And let us know who you're cheering for, by dropping a comment on this video, whether you're watching us on Facebook, on Periscope, on Twitter, or even on YouTube as well. Let us know who you're backing. I'm kind of curious to figure out what the split is on that. I think there's a lot of Maroon fans in St. Louis that'll probably be backing Tampa. But, I think there's also, you got the underdog story of Dallas as well. And, who doesn't like a good sweaty Kazakh, every now and then, right? Look at that beautiful man. Beautiful. Craig Crenshaw of the Sporty with Corey and Richie podcast said that this photo creeps her out really, really bad. So, apparently it doesn't do it for every lady out there. So, as one might expect. But whether you're a man or woman, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Blue Notes. I want to thank you because without you, there is no me, there is no Wags, there is no Trainwreck, who is off, getting power restored to his house as we speak probably. And there is no Blue Notes. I'm Tom Franklin, reminding you that we have neck gaiters, and they are on our new merch store at Teespring. You can just click in the comments below. These are beautiful. We have masks. We have shirts as well. Check that out. The link is in the description below. It is at teespring.com. Just search for Blue Notes there as well. And a reminder to not be a chump and always play to the whistle. You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk covering every team in the NHL.
New episodes every Monday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.